Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are jumping right into episode 2 of this incredibly fascinating narrative, Trust Issues, Maggi, and Ludo's Sacrifice. We're tackling something that is literally everywhere in our modern world, the long-distance, digitally bound relationship. Let's see how this story uses character contrasts to figure out how connection actually works when you can't even share the same physical space.
So how do you build absolute trust when your entire relationship exists through a screen? It's a wildly relatable question, right? And it perfectly frames the intense, honestly kind of claustrophobic stakes of communicating across a digital barrier. We're talking about a world of delayed texts, pixelated avatars, and trying to decipher someone's tone through a crackly microphone. As we dive in today, we're going to see exactly what kind of effort it takes to survive all of that.
Okay, let's dive into this. At the absolute core of our story, we have Sana and Syed. Seeing their visual character sheets right next to each other grounds us instantly in who they are. Honestly, you don't even need to read a single page of dialogue to know they're operating on completely different wavelengths. Let's look a little bit closer at what makes each of them tick.
First up, we have Sana Abbasi. She's a 23-year-old creative writer. Notice the warm mustard yellow cardigan, those soft expressions, and, this is key, the journal she's holding. The notes explicitly mention she keeps her journal super close and loves loose-leaf tea. She is creative, empathetic, observant, and dedicated. Basically, Sana is an artist through and through. She feels things incredibly deeply and processes the whole world through a lens of raw emotion. Now, this empathy is absolutely her superpower, but it's also what dictates her highly emotional and sometimes pretty frantic reactions to the world around her.
Now contrast Sana with Syed. It is a really striking difference. He's also 23, but he has this lean build, practical clothes, and look at this. He is surrounded by GMAT prep books. His expressions definitely skew way more toward concerned, confident, or just straight up annoyed. He approaches life less like a canvas and more like a math problem that's just waiting to be solved. And well, that brings us right to their very first major collision.
Act 1. Contrast and Comfort.
The writers actually drop them into the most mundane scenario possible just to show us these differences, a virtual movie night. So they're watching an anime together, using these little chibi avatars in a virtual theater, right? And suddenly, a spicy, censorable scene pops up. Sana's reaction, absolute hyper-creative panic. Red warning lights are flashing, her eyes go as wide as saucers, and she is literally shouting for Syed to close his eyes. And Syed? Cut to him over in his kitchen, wearing an apron, just calmly stirring a pot of Maggi noodles. Completely nonchalant. He just coolly tells her to enjoy the plot. It so perfectly captures her emotional volatility, crashing right into his completely grounded vibe. He's her anchor, even from hundreds of miles away.
Act 2. Love through action. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it transitions us into the major turning point of the narrative during a digital game of Ludo.
So later that week, they're playing a game of Ludo online. Sana is losing, and she's complaining that Syed is being way too strategic. And, if you look at steps 1 and 2 of his plan, calculating probability to essentially guarantee a win, it is pure GMAT brain at work. But then, something really fascinating happens. Step 3. He notices Sana's teary, sulking little avatar. And then, in step 4, this highly logical, analytical guy intentionally moves his token in a completely nonsensical direction to throw the game. He actively abandons his logic for one reason, just to see her smile.
He has this realization, sometimes letting the person you care about win is much more important than the game itself. It's just such a beautiful takeaway about how affection actually works across a distance. He doesn't just tell her he cares, he acts on it. He sacrifices something that fundamentally matters to him: logic, strategy, winning, just for her happiness. It is a tiny digital gesture, sure, but man, it carries immense narrative weight.
Act 3. The Ultimate Pledge.
As night falls, all that playful humor of Maggi noodles and rigged Ludo games just fades into pure vulnerability. Sana is sitting alone, clutching a pillow by her window, and she asks, "Syed, how do I know I'm special to you?" Her empathetic, overthinking brain is really working against her here. Without physical presence, without those easy, in-person reassurances, the digital distance feels absolutely terrifying. It's an insecurity that, let's be real, anyone who has ever maintained a long-distance relationship knows all too well. She desperately needs a tether.
Now, Syed completely rejects the easy route of just saying, "I love you" over and over again to pacify her. Instead, he defines his commitment through real, actionable pledges. He commits to saying Allah Hafiz to bid her protection. He commits to taking the time to share all those little mundane details of his day.
and he actively reserves his world and his time for her, despite his insanely busy schedule. For a logical guy like Syed, love isn't just some fluffy word, it's an undeniable daily action. He proves his devotion through consistency, building a rock-solid foundation of trust.
Then, he drops his voice into this incredibly soft, earnest tone and delivers a line that changes absolutely everything. Come to India. Stop letting screens be our barrier. Come to me. The logical strategist makes this huge, bold move to pull their virtual reality into the physical world. It's a plea that leaves Sana clutching her phone with happy tears, and it fundamentally shifts the entire trajectory of their story.
All of this leaves us with one incredibly powerful final thought. When does a virtual connection become so real that the screen can literally no longer contain it? This story so beautifully illustrates that trust isn't built by the medium you use, right? It's built by the intentional sacrifices and those daily actionable pledges you make for one another. It really leaves you wondering how Sana and Sid are going to handle the messy, beautiful reality of a world without screens. Thank you so much for exploring this explainer with me, and I genuinely hope it sparks some thoughts about the nature of connection in your own life.